right, this isn't a small situation, and I'm not going to minimize it because what you shared with me just now, what you're facing, it's extremely frustrating. It's disorientating, and it's the kind of moment where that pain hits below your logic, where your heart aches and your chest tightens and your body wants to either scream or just shut down completely. You just found out that someone you used to love and who helped bring your child into this world is now making choices that don't sit right with you. Not just because of what it means for you emotionally, but because of what it means for your kid, for both your kids, for your daughter, specifically in this situation. Now, the person that you would do anything to protect, am I right? So you're hearing these things from her that hit you like a punch in the gut. Things about sleeping arrangements, things about words being spoken in your absence that carry deep emotional weight. And you're left there sitting in this storm of fear and anger, powerlessness, maybe shame. And you're wondering, how the hell do I handle this the right way? Because deep down, you know this isn't just about how you feel. It's about how you lead the situation. And I want you to hear me when I say this, okay? You're not crazy for feeling what you feel. What you're experiencing right now is not just emotional discomfort. It's a boundary violation. And it's triggering you on multiple levels. As a man, as a father, and as someone who's doing the work. Like you're putting in this work of healing from your past so that your kids don't have to carry the same wounds. Now, here's the problem though. If you go into this conversation from a place of emotional chaos, if you speak while your nervous system is still on fire, you're not going to get what you want. Now, you might blow up, you might collapse, you might say things that are true, but not helpful. And later, you'll be left with that familiar feeling of shame. That voice that says, I should have handled this better. So I'm going to show you how to handle that differently, okay? Not from fear, not from rage, not from shutdown, but from grounded emotional leadership. And I told you we're going to use this thing called DBT, Dialectic Behavioral Therapy. And there's a process called DEARMAN. Dialectic Behavioral Therapy is built for exactly this, exactly what you're going through. Emotionally charged conversations where you need to protect your values, express your needs, and hold your boundaries without losing your shit and all of your self-respect. Or the relationship that you and your ex are going to be having in the future. And most importantly, you're not going to be abandoning yourself. So this is how you speak hard truths with maturity. This is how you protect your kids without burning any bridges. This is how you stop repeating the patterns that you're working hard to break right now. So let's get into this slowly, okay? The DEARMAN in Dialectic Behavioral Therapy is an acronym. The D stands for describe. And this is the first step and one of the most important ones that most men skip through. But you want to go straight for how you normally feel when you're having a conversation. But before you express anything emotional, you have to describe what's happening clearly, calmly, and factually. So that's what the D stands for. Describe. There's no interpretation here, no accusation, no emotional coloring or flair that you need to add. Just observable, neutral facts. So instead of saying something like, you're putting our daughter in an unsafe situation, you say, our daughter told me she's been sleeping in the same bed with you and her boyfriend. She also shared that she was asked to say, I love you to him. Those are the facts. That's it. No extra story, no blaming tone, just what you know. Why? Because when you come from this place of stability, you're giving both of you something to stand on. They de-escalate emotional reactivity and keep conversations anchored in reality. You're not pretending that it's okay. You're just refusing to start a fire when a tiny little spark is going to do. And now, moving on to the E of the DEARMAN, that stands for express. Now that you've went through the D and you've described what's happened, it's time to name what it did to you emotionally. Now, this is not the place for lectures or emotional weapons. This is the place for honest, vulnerable, regulated truth. This is your opportunity to say, when I heard what she said, what came up, when I heard the facts, I felt a wave of anger. And beneath that, some sadness and fear. I've been doing a lot of work on myself to create a stable emotional environment for our daughters, for our kids. And hearing that information really shook me. It triggered something in me, something that made me feel like I was failing to protect her emotionally. to keep her emotionally safe. And notice how that lands with her. You're not demanding anything yet. You're not moralizing. You're simply saying, these are the facts. This hurts. This matters. This isn't nothing. This needs attention. And that changes the energy of the entire conversation. Moving on to the A of Dear Man stands for ask or assert. It's time for you to name what you need. This is where a lot of men either go soft or go vague, or they come in hot and controlling. Now, you're going to do neither of those things. You're going to speak your need with clarity, calm, and certainty. What I need moving forward is that our daughter sleeps in her own space, especially during overnights. And I need her emotional language to stay her own. I don't want her to be encouraged to ask to say, I love you to anyone she doesn't feel that forward yet with. That needs to come naturally, not through suggestion. You're not asking her for control over her whole life. You're asserting the emotional boundaries that protect your kid's development and your role as her father. And the R in Dear Man stands for reinforce. And this part of the process is where you make it clear that this isn't just about what you want. You explain why what you're asking for benefits everybody. I believe that this creates more emotional stability for her, more clarity for everyone involved, and more trust between us as co-parents. That's what I want. For her to feel secure and for us to be able to parent from the same page as much as possible. See, you're not coming across as threatening. You're not manipulating. You're leading. And you're reminding both of you that this isn't a power struggle. This is about a kid who deserves protection, safety, and clarity. Now, those are the 4 words. DEAR. D-E-A-R. Describe, explain, ask, reinforce. The second half is just as important, okay? When we start with the M, mindfulness. So stay focused. Don't follow any detours. If the conversation starts to drift into blame, into the past, into finger pointing, bring it back. Listen, I want to stay focused on what's best for our daughter right now. That's what this is about. Now, this takes a lot of discipline, especially when you're hurt or if you're being poked or provoked. But staying mindful means refusing to be pulled into chaos. It means keeping the compass pointed at the mission. And the mission is protecting your kids without losing your integrity. Now, the second half of the A here in Dear Man is appear confident. You don't have to fake toughness, but you do need to stand in your own truth. So keep your voice steady, breathe, sit upright, be direct. If you need to pause before you speak, do it, because that silence is power. It's not a weakness. Remember, you're not here to dominate her or the situation. You're here to hold your ground. Because a father who's clear, grounded, and self-respecting, that energy speaks louder than any threat or tantrum ever will. And lastly, the N stands for negotiate. And it's, one of the hardest parts. But you have to be open to dialogue. You don't have to agree with her perspective, but you do have to make room for it. So you can finish by saying something like, I would love to hear how you're thinking about this, what your intention was, and how we can create something together that supports our kids long term. This doesn't mean you're compromising. This doesn't mean you're giving up on any of your core values. It means you're making space for a mutual leadership, for a healthy relationship with your ex going forward. And that is rare as fuck. That is powerful. That is healing. Now, here's what I want you to do. Okay, your next step is to go through this process. Dear man the hell out of this process and write it out. Seriously, all of it, okay? Go grab a pen, paper, notepad, whatever. Because this process of Dear Man is not just a tool that you memorize. It's a process that you embody. So write out the conversation, word for word, and use that motto. Describe the facts, explain how it made you feel, ask or assert for what you need, reinforce how it benefits everybody, be mindful of the conversation and always bring it back to what the goal or the intention is here. Appear confident as you're doing it. Having that appearance will just help you embody your voice in a more powerful manner, and then be willing to negotiate. And once you have written this letter out, I want you to just send it to me. Okay? I'm going to give you honest, mature feedback. I'm going to challenge you to make sure you're staying in your integrity, Not to be perfect, but to make sure you're being present in the situation. Because to be honest, this is not just about this one conversation. This is about who you're becoming as a man, as a father, as a leader of your own nervous system in your day-to-day life, a leader of your voice, a leader of everything. And if you do this the way that I know you can, you're going to walk away knowing that you protected your kids without abandoning yourself. And that's the win. Now, take a breath, go get your pen and paper, and send it to me when you're done.